No.
Yes. 1 minute early. We're live on Facebook. Hi, everybody at the What's On at Elephant and Castle Facebook page. My name is Nick at Retribe. There is Melissa at Retribe and Michelle Milner-Eradhun, who's joining us. Did I pronounce it right?
You did, Eradhun. Good go.
Eradhun. Okay. All right. While I'm just going to ask you, Michelle, how are you doing? Melissa, how are you guys doing? You guys can kind of just do a little thing. I'm just going to make sure all our links are going. So, Michelle, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. We were just talking about my Christmas tree went up this weekend. I was contemplating doing it last weekend, but got some funny looks from my friends because they said it was too early. But I think this year I've seen loads of Christmas trees up so early.
It's true. I heard something on BBC where it's like people, because of just COVID and being stuck, Christmas can start in November. Nobody's going to judge or complain because we need some sort of like remembering of normalcy and whatever that means, right?
Yeah. I don't know what it is when you go down the street and you see that they've got the Christmas decorations, and especially when you go at night and you can see all the lights, there's just something magical about it, and it feels good.
Yeah, the lights are such a, I've never bought into the Christmas tree thing, but this year I'm like, I'm gonna buy a Christmas tree. I'm gonna get me a Christmas tree and decorate it. So like that longing for something, right? Yeah, I had that little like whisper of guidance. I don't know if it's guidance. I had the little whisper somewhere in my brain space to get.
I have to do all of my Christmas decorating because I've inherited this kind of silly painting in my flat of a very scary Mona Lisa with a mustache. And now I have to do my decorating. So I'm looking forward to it. And I'm debating the real tree versus fake tree. But I know when I grew up, we had a fake tree and it was the best tree ever. And the older it got, it got incredible. I loved it. And it's my favorite time of year. And I'm so happy that you have a Christmas tree behind you.
Well,
Mel, your plants are perking up a little bit.
I know, there's finally sun. And there's some, like, I rearranged them. I chatted with them. We have a system now. I think they're all in their spots that they need to be. And then I have to be over there. Like,
and you're watering them from underneath.
Whatever, Nick. Let's not go into that conversation. Nick feels like
that doesn't happen when it rains. I've got to say, when it rains, it's top down.
Right?
Yeah, that's how they collect it and bring it down into the ground. Yeah, but I think a lot of house plants like to be watered from underneath. I don't know. It's just I don't have a green thumb. It's just what I was taught. But anyway, guys, Michelle, thank you so much for joining us. You run a business called Known Framework. You work with small to medium-sized enterprises with the structure of their companies. So I know a lot of people hit the What's On at Elephant Castle page are small business owners. So I'm hoping they can kind of glean some information from you and your journey over the last 11 years, but you also are quite a spiritual person. I know you dabble in a bit of Reiki and stuff, and I know that's Mel's forte. So I think we're gonna have a really interesting 45 minutes. Can you kind of give people a little bit of a rundown of who you are and what you do and how you got to where you are?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that intro. It's a pleasure to be with you both. It's very eventful journey over the last 11 years. And I actually did drama and theatre arts in school, college and uni. And my degree is in theatre arts. One of the things that I loved about the degree and the course was the teamwork, the project management, the fact that you have to work as a team. You cannot get a production up and running with the set, with the lighting, with the sound, with the acting, anything, the direction, without working properly connected as a team. And I think, looking back now, that was really where the buzz is. And you take that principle out and you put it into a business, and there's so much there to learn from, and there's so many tangible tools that you can use. And I think that's kind of where I started. And I just fell into this operational role of wanting to connect everybody together and wanting to connect the business together. And through that kind of connection, things run better. We made more money, people were happier, we were coming up with all of these amazing ideas, and we were kind of excelling in the business because people were given the environment to do that. So I basically ran with that. So for 11 years, I've been working with small companies, startups, scale-ups, and really helping them hone in on what makes them work. And quite often when people do that, they make things more complicated. They put more processes in place and they layer their tech stack, and they make things more difficult, and through that process disconnect. And one of the important things is to remember that we're all people and we still need to connect, even more so when things are scaling and when things are busy and when things are stressful. Because it doesn't matter if you're in a meeting and everybody's like, oh my God, this is crazy and I'm feeling really stressed and this isn't going right, manufacturing's wrong and all of this stuff. It doesn't matter that things are up in the air. What matters is that you can feel each other. And with the spirituality and with the business, to me, they go hand in hand. There's no separation. There's no separation at all. And it's bringing in elements of really keeping things grounded, keeping things honest and true, and putting that into your business, because your business is an energy. It's an energy that's made up of all of the people within it. And the framework that I've developed just over the years has really seen people excel personally, which means the business excels. So in a nutshell, that's the essence of what it is that I'm creating.
Just to go a little bit into the business side of things, and I know that when businesses are new or scaling up, they tend to kind of look towards either past successes or the people that mentored them, their past successes. So it's kind of like the masculine energy of looking to the past for solutions. And I've found that is very detrimental in some things, because those old ideas in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s just don't really apply to today. How do you work with organizations to say, hey guys, like these old kind of like pick yourself up by your bootstraps and be at work before your competitors and all these kind of like really aggressive kind of tactics to try to grow your business? How do you get them to maybe say that those ideas are older and maybe they don't apply themselves today, when it's kind of because they have this mindset of, well, it worked in the past, so it must work today. So they kind of operate from a place of fear. And I'm wondering how you kind of approach people who are in that mindset, and how do you get them to kind of unlearn these old ideas?
Such a good point. Such a brilliant point, well made. There's so many people that do that and they experience that and they just get stuck. And ultimately, how I get around that is, does it feel right? Does what you're doing feel right? Are you stressed? Are you waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning worried about work? Because there's a difference between waking up and being inspired and the difference between waking up and feeling like you've got the weight of the world on your shoulders. And to get people out of that, I have 2 rules. Never look at your competition to try and replicate them. It's not about competition. You're in your own lane and you're doing your own thing. And never look in the past unless you want to learn something. So it's when you look back in the past and you think, okay, my mentor did this and scaled his business this way, you need to look at the why, because that's not the root of it. You need to go further back. Why did this work? And it will likely, I want to say 9 times out of 10, 10 times out of 10, it will be a customer need. So never lose sight as a business. Never think that you're just your 4 walls. You are everything that you touch, and further beyond that you can even imagine or see, or the conversations that people have about your business when you're not there. So how do you engage and pull people in and connect with people and service people in a way that matters to them? And it's never forgetting, because that will always change. So what worked in the 80s and 90s is not going to work now. And that worked to do the masculine, to do the doing. Okay, we're going to work for 12 hours because that means we can be more productive than working in 6. That's not right. And we're definitely seeing a shift now that 6 hours worth of work can be way more productive than 12 hours worth of work. Your brain, I think you have a bucket of energy when you wake up. You've got your 100% capacity, and depending on how you've learned, how you've grown, and you can hone that and you can strengthen that, but it's a depth, not an elongation of your energy. It's a depth of your energy and your ability and your knowledge and your talents and your gifts. And if you can work smart, if you can have deep time in your business, for example, if you are, everybody must have experienced this, I'm sure you guys have. If you're working and you get a distraction, if you're deep in work, whether it's writing a blog, you're developing a product, you're in code, whatever it is that you do, if you're distracted, it takes about 20 minutes to go back into that state of flow, to go back into that deep work state. How many times a day do you guys get distracted?
Billions.
I'm distracted right now.
Imagine all of those 20 minutes.
Yeah.
20 minutes going and going and going. How much time are you losing by not working smart? By not having just 3 hours of, right, everybody do, these are the projects we're working on this quarter. This is what we need to do this week. Here's a few 3-hour chunks in the week to get this work done. How much could you achieve by consistently performing at a high level? And that's what smart working is.
Yeah. I have a pen. That sounded like an aggressive, like, or looked like an aggressive action, but it's actually my wand pen that I bought at a pound shop that really helps me. But so when you made that point, I was like,
Magic.
good. Um, I think what you're saying is really aligned, and something I've been really consciously working on is this, like, I think you used the word constructive or conscious or something with a C, right in the last sentence. But the idea for me and what I'm learning too is like, you can have, I used to be so afraid of structure because I'm like, no, then I'm not honoring the like different flows of my thing, my life and my creativity if I can't have structure, because that will inhibit or create a barrier for this creative flow. And I've been realizing, I would say the last 3 months since I've been doing these little programs and teachings, or yeah, teachings, is that I totally need structure. And it's this idea of discipline, right? Like, and I come from a martial arts background, and so I never questioned the discipline. Like, I know for 2 hours every night I'm in this thing and I'm doing this thing and all this stuff, right? So that discipline is ingrained in me. And then once I stopped practicing, I saw it as like, well, it must not have worked. I don't know. I had all these narratives attached to it. But when it comes to creation and business development and like just with everything, there's so much freedom within that structure. Like, but it's the structure that creates the discipline. So every morning I'm up at 5, I do an hour and a half meditation, then I do 30 minutes of writing, then I walk my dog. I've been doing that every day for a long time, or no, not for a short time, but in that, let's say it's been maybe 17 days, I have more energy, I have more freedom, I have more like more of a direct access to my creativity, rather than, oh, I'll just have another cup of coffee and then by the time I know it's 1 p.m. Or I'll just like I'll just read it or just watch this, where it's like that discipline has given me so much freedom, and I love that kind of dichotomy of it. We can have so much freedom within this structure. And Nick, you and I've talked about it too. Anyway, can you speak to that? You don't have to speak to that, but that's just within my mind, is that consistency. So work smarter is what you said, right? Not harder, work smarter.
No, absolutely. That's a perfect example. And I mean, really, there is no structure. There's just the pressure that we put on ourselves that really adhere to the triggers that we have. I'm worried that I'm not going to make any money, so I need to work longer hours. And it's a program that we've got ingrained in us, not in our souls, but in our brains. So when we go into fear mode, we go, okay, what's my go-to? My go-to is work harder. What is working harder? Just doing more stuff.
Right.
You know, that's where all the doing comes in, and that's where you get this attitude in a workplace of you're not working hard enough because you didn't send an email at 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Like, come on. You know, that never worked properly. That put people in a deep state of depression, really stressed, split families up. Like there's been so many reasons why working that stressful and not having a life outside of work is detrimental, you know. And by having consistent, it's what works for you. So it's knowing the balance of the creativity, and then when things need to get done, it's knowing when to use that masculine energy. It's having the instinct of, do you know what, I think this is really going to work for our business. I think if we have this product or this service, people are really going to love that. You know, all of our complaints are that we're not fast enough, or that, you know, this doesn't happen on our particular gadget. You know, there's feedback here. Let's listen to what's going on. Let's really absorb it. Let's really contemplate on it. Let's feel it, and then work out how we can put that back out there. And that doesn't mean you need to go and try loads of things and spend loads of money. It means you need to work together smart, you know. And there's ways to do that in a business constructively to make it easier. There's how you host your meetings. How many hours have you wasted in a meeting in a business? You know, and sometimes I've sat there very early in my career and just listened to just chat. It's chat. And then everybody leaves the room and they're all thinking different things. And when you step back and you watch it, you're like, what is happening? Like, is this work? Is this work? Is this meaningful work? Actually, I mean, it's work, but is it meaningful work? On a personal development level and a business level, and, you know, and an offering level.
Do you find that, oh, sorry, it's your turn, Nick.
You go ahead if you had one there. My question will last. Go ahead.
Do you find, like, with COVID and the change up of how people are working now from home, that there is kind of this, has any notion of productivity changed? Has there been a more increase? Because some of the people I work with, because it's a lot online and stuff, it is to your point, like if somebody's not logged in at 10 p.m. with an email, then how could they not? Because we're just working on home. So shame on, like, you should just be able to log in. So like there's these boundaries that are kind of being blurred, or expectations where people are like, well, you're working from home. And not only from top down, but also the own employee, the own person is like, well, I am at home. So if I get an email at 10:30 from my boss and I don't respond right away, how does that impact me or my performance or the idea of productivity? I don't know if that question makes sense, but have you seen the shift with COVID and how we have it working now?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I think I've been working sort of part home, part with clients for a few years now, so that I've kind of got used to that flow. But there was, when I first started working from home, I felt like by saying to people I'm working from home, it meant that I was doing no work. I had this real block of saying to people I'm working from home, because I felt like they would immediately look at me and think she's not doing anything. There's no way she's not doing any work. So it was like that constant need to prove myself, which Nick, what you just said with, you know, having to work in the old fashioned ways, it's exactly the same. It's just displaying itself in a different way. And I think there's two things. One, I've really enjoyed the fact that you can be in my living room and it makes it more personal. I really love seeing somebody else's, you know, just them in their natural state. You know, it doesn't matter if they're in the kitchen, in the bathroom, you know, and you've got people that have got kids running around, dogs running around, cats all over the place. You've got all sorts of different things in the household, and it's been really hard for people. And some people have found that really hard to deal with and not been as productive. I had this really great story from, I think it was LinkedIn actually, on a webinar I did a few months ago. And they all had, there was a team of 8 people, 8 or 9 people. One person didn't have children, but everybody else had children. So when they were doing a meeting, the kids, like, you know, you've got a 5-year-old coming up. You can't, and we don't want to say, go away, I'm working necessarily. It's that balance of trying to still be a parent and still do your job properly, which in sometimes you just have to split and make a choice somewhere down the line. And it's where you're putting your attention. And the person actually that didn't have kids said, why don't we, one person in our team has 2 hours where they work with the kids. So they do games and they do storytelling and bits and pieces, and everybody else can get their work done. And it was such a great example of balancing what's happened with COVID and everybody working from home and juggling all these things that they never even expected to juggle, didn't have the space for, didn't have the headspace for. And then be able to like integrate that into a situation that was just on everybody's doorstep. And people, I think, are less productive because when they're trying to prove something that they are working from home. But if you, this is where operationally businesses can shift and be positive. Instead of saying, okay, at 9 o'clock you clock on and I want to hear from you at 5 o'clock. Why don't we say in the morning, this is what we're all doing. You have a stand up in the morning. These are the things that I'm working on today. This is the big thing I want to get finished today. You're working on the same thing as me. Let's talk for an hour. Let's, you know what everybody else is working on. At 5 o'clock, 4:30, 6 o'clock, whatever, everyone come back on. Let's give an update. So it's a project-based thing. So how far have you got with this project? What's blocking you? Do you need support? When do you think you can get this done by? Call. So everybody is aware. There's complete transparency, but instead of trying to prove what you've done, you're just working towards a goal together. And there's a lot of language in there from managers. You know, it's integrating, actually caring about what your team are doing as well as how they are being productive, rather than getting people to tick things off of a to-do list.
It's so collaborative, which is perfect.
I think that when I look back to my kind of business career, I started my first company about 1996 or 97, and I was young, I was excited, I was building a business with 4 or 5 other people, and we were kind of happy to put these 18-hour days in while juggling a day job, and it was kind of fun and cute. You know, it's going to bed at 3 o'clock in the morning and then waking up at 6 to go try and do another job, and it was really fun. And that work ethic, I remember. So and then with Retribe became a startup company, and I suppose it was about this time last year when me and Melissa decided to take it in a certain way. And I was kind of operating on those things of like hours. You know, put more hours in, and you're going to get more results. And things were kind of just snailing along. They were getting there. Meetings were happening, but that was the key, is we were meeting the right people. Right. But things didn't really happen until lockdown happened. And then, you know, all of a sudden, you know, Melissa and I could only talk virtually. We could only talk with our clients virtually. I had this a first little bit of this thing, the work from home guilt, where I was like, oh wow, because I'm at my laptop, I could do this work, I could send out the emails and do the stuff. And I love what you said about like what you can do in 3 hours, because I got a lot of stuff done. But then I'd be like, I was getting guilt because I could go for a walk. I could go and enjoy the trees. I could go and enjoy the sunshine when we were allowed out for an hour. And I was like thriving, but I felt this kind of guilt of it's not 8 hours. And this was a mindset that I needed to change. And I'm just wondering how people have kind of, because of the rat race, because of the 2 hours a day traveling on tubes and trains and buses, because of the getting up the elevator to the office and the kind of the hustle and bustle of everything. And then all of a sudden we're giving more time and space. And I think this is when our energies kind of go, whew, just breathe and enjoy all of this. But how do you talk to people about this kind of bit of like, if you have done your work, don't feel guilty about maybe being able to go for a walk or have a nap or have a hot bath, and like some kind of self-care mixed in with the things that you'd never be able to do in an office, unless you had a really cool office with baths, but I don't know how cool that would be. So this kind of work from home guilt is what I'm trying to say. Like is this something that you've seen through COVID as an experience?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Like I went through the same thing myself, and I think that's going to take time to change because it's so ingrained in people and people are scared. You said at the beginning, people are working from a place of fear, and they do. And it will take a lot of leaders, consistent care and consideration and compassion and emotional intelligence to be able to softly, gently shift that for good. And it will take a it will take a soft, gentle approach to make that shift, because that's what it is. It's more gentle, it's more nurturing than it is to take action. And that doesn't mean it's not strong, that's stronger. It takes one moment to come up with a brilliant idea, one moment.
Yeah, exactly.
Everything we do, everything we can see, everything we touch, everything we eat, everything in our lives that we experience was a thought. It started out as a thought. The chair I'm sitting on, somebody thought to make this chair, this design, this color, this material. Everything started as a thought. So why don't we give our people space to make more thoughts? Why don't we give our teams more space to have that zone of deep time? And it will take leaders understanding that themselves and shifting their own mindset, that they can still make money, they can still be successful, even more successful, by shifting how they work. And it's not about becoming a different person. It's about expressing your power in a different way and in a more powerful way. And that will take collaboration, it will take support, it will take compassion. And the more that we can have these open conversations, and the more we can include spirituality, and some people don't like the term spirituality. It's not even about what the term is. It's about how you connect with other people, how you resonate with other people, how you treat other people, how kind you are to yourself. By having that guilt, you're not being kind to yourself at all. You're creating all of these emotions in you that sit in your stomach, that sit in your throat, and it brings up you can't work your best from a place like that, and it's give and take in that situation. Everybody sort of settles in themselves in that way, and that will one day, my hope and my dream is one day we have a society where everybody goes into work because they do something that they love, and they're learning something every day, they're coming across challenges and overcoming them every day, and they go home and they're like, I had a brilliant day today, it was really hard, we had this happen, but we did it, we fixed it, or we're fixing it, and everybody feels empowered. And coming back to the guilt side of things and the productivity, this has been an acceleration. The last few months through COVID has forced us into new modes of action. It's forced us to do things differently, and we have a choice now. We have a choice to do the hard thing, the simple thing, but the hard thing, which is to go through those mindset barriers, to go through those fears ourselves, and to work on that, and to really push through that, or to fold back into the old way of working. I know which one I would prefer.
It's kind of like bridging the macro and the micro, right? So like the internal change reflects the external change. And I think what you're saying too speaks to the importance of leadership, because I have no problem working from home, because when my first job as a frontline worker, when you're working with kind of crisis all the time, that if you don't tap out, or you can make a phone call at home and you don't have to be doing this thing, um, you'll burn real quick. And part of that was me watching my manager, who's like, no, why are you here? Go home. Right. Or like, you're not well. Like, so I learned that very quickly years and years ago, that wait a second, I like the amount of work. If I see one person a day, but show up fully for that one person, and I'm listening to what they need, presently, then that is actually qualitatively, is that a word? More important, more aligned with my essence than seeing 8 people a day and kind of like not listening or thinking about the next person I have to see, or what I'm going to eat for lunch, or when I could walk my dog. Right. So it's like really honoring the how you can fully show up for something, not how many times a day you can half-ass show up for something. Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's so important. But I learned that because I had leaders and colleagues and mentors who were like, you're going home now and you're not going to do anything. Okay. Or you're going to see one client today. That's it. And so it became natural to me. I even remember, Nick, last year when we were kind of starting this, and I was like, I'm working from home. And like, there was always this resistance, because like, I can work from home and I know I can I can create a workshop in 1 hour, rather than every like staying for 6 hours at a computer, and just pretending because I have to. When if I'm like whoosh, aligned and in it, I'm in it and it's done. But there is such a like disconnect from what work even needs to look like. And I think that's such a thing, a cultural shift, right? We need to change the consciousness of how we show up and how we do things that's from this place,
Yeah.
rather than like this place. It's really
Absolutely. Yeah.
You said something about you want people to love what they work, love their work. And I was listening to a podcast the other day, and from the the director of Whole Foods, and he was saying that every employee works for first of all for money, and then what you want to try to do is give them some kind of a purpose at work, and for them to feel valued. And you told us a stat the other day that 50% of workers are in work looking for other work, right?
50%.
So
that's
Yeah.
that's
so if you have a company out there and you have 100 employees, 50 of them are looking for another job, according to statistics. And I think this is a thing of like the place of their operating from fear. So if I come to work and I'm like, oh, I haven't done 8 hours at my laptop, my boss might be fine with it. But I might, because of these old ideas, and I think they stem from obviously from factory days, right? Where you had to punch in and punch out, and like punch out if you had to go to the washroom, and you like got docked pay. So we've got this kind of thing from our grandparents that, when they were in the coal mines, they had to work so many hours, and it's drilled into it, and it was drilled into me. And that's why Mel and I was like, I thought that showing work was getting up, showering, breakfast, getting on a train, and going to work. And that was part of it, right? So I had to kind of shift this idea. And this is why I say things really worked, changed when COVID happened. Excuse me, I've got this frog in my throat.
Yeah, do you need some water? Go take some water.
I'm good. It's probably my coffee. I put too much coconut milk in it. And I think that if we can start to understand, and I think it's going to be a leadership thing, I think it's also going to be something that employees and associates can start telling their HR departments what they need, so that they don't, when you go to work and you don't have to be fearful, you are more productive. And these fears are not necessarily from, you have to do it's something deep in our old ways of thinking, I think. And the fears might not even be real, but I haven't sat at my desk for 8 hours a day, so I'm going to get fired, so I better start looking for another job, even though that's not even real at all. And your boss might be really, really happy with you. So it's kind of these insane thoughts that we can have in our heads about these old things that we were taught. And
Can I add another layer to your fear conversation?
Sure.
I think what I'm noticing too is that, okay, there's this fear, fear of, we know what fear is, let's say, but then there's this real fear because of COVID and its presence of losing the job that's really based, of becoming redundant. So that is something I'm working with a lot of people on, in terms of like the redundancy. I'm like, well, if you're an office manager and your job is to be in the office, but now there's no office, you have a legitimate fear of losing your job. But at the same time, there's this overall fear of trying to meet other people's expectations, which leads to you disconnecting with yourself and taking things like putting more pressure on yourself that maybe is meant to be. So like there's this fear that's like what I'm feeling right now is like this fear that's intangible that we all know. Fear is the opposite of love, and if you're not choosing love, then you're choosing like that language, which we've talked a lot about. But then there's the real fear of, what does work look like nowadays, and roles, and like that again, we're coming full circle. It requires this consciousness and the shift in ideas and work and values. Anyway, I just wanted to add that to your fear conversation, and how we balance like the possibility of work looking very differently, but still honoring the, basically, how do you make a paycheck now and doing what you love? Maybe that's the question. How do we make a paycheck doing what we love and honoring the heart's work, but still like living and needing things to survive, and the guilt that comes with that? Sorry, I totally cut you off, Nick. I thought I was going to connect it. I didn't. I just went on a different tangent. I apologize. I thought I was going to bring that together. I didn't.
That made total sense. I really like I think that's a huge part of it. I think that's a huge part of it. And the point of, doing what we love, I think most of the time it's not what we're doing necessarily. It's not the job that we're doing that we hate. It's the environment we're in and how it makes us feel.
Oh.
And just one of the many things I love about you guys and the work that you do, it's no good saying we've got a mindset coach that's coming in to coach 20 people all at the same time, and we expect you after one session to have completely shifted your mindset and you're going to fly and make us loads of money. Mm-hmm. In raw terms, that's quite often what happens. And I've seen it happen, and I've seen companies waste tens of thousands of pounds on the wrong shift. Because it's a patch, it's a plaster that falls off very quickly. It's a plaster without any sticky, and it doesn't work. You need to go in, like what you just said. You need to go in. It needs to come from the heart space. It needs to be integrated. It needs to be lived. So the intention of wanting that environment and to want that for your people as a leader, it needs to be lived. It needs to come to life, and that doesn't happen unless it's consistent steps.
Michelle, yeah. You're so right. And I think this is the problem, is that the people who are asking mindset coaches to come in and to do these little one-offs, they're expecting this little shift and change, or ticking a box of, I'm doing this for my employees, but they are scared that a mindset coach is going to come in and do more than just tick a box. They're going to create questions. They're going to create some uncertainty in people's going, oh, wow, what he said, or, they question actually the structure of that organization as it is, which was probably set up maybe in the 90s or something with these older ideas of the early 2000s. And I think people are just scared of like, if we go away from, these old structural ideas of, the working hours and the kind of win at all cost mentality, then we're going to lose money, or we're going to be unsuccessful. And I think this is where leaders now are going to have to be brave. They're going to have to actually challenge this thing, and they're going to have to try to go, rather than having a mindset coach come in, they're going to have a Michelle and a Melissa and a Nick come in and go, what is this ecosystem like? How do we change the ecosystem so that the people within the ecosystem feel more safe, more secure, more loved? And they've given more passion. And I just know from experience, when people are like that, they just, their shoulders go from here to here, and they can go, oh, I'm in a safe space here, so I can be creative, I can be productive, I am loved. So I think that this is going to be a thing of like, where people who ask for people to come in to do these jobs, they're going to have to take a little bit of a risk and a change. And I'm hoping it's happening. And I think that through our talks, we're seeing it happen a little bit. But this is where I want to kind of start bringing this conversation now to, is the last little bit on your, I'll just read it, on your little bio, is about, I can't pull it up right now, but it's about Reiki and energy work and spirituality. That is something, as a 49-year-old male and an old business owner in the production and advertising world, I'd be like, oh, that's tree hugging,
yogurt, granola eating mumbo jumbo. I don't want that in my space because everyone's going to be all like, "Ah," you know? So what has brought this about in you where you can actually put this out on your CV and say, energy work, spirituality, Reiki is part of you? And how have people accepted that? And how have people maybe even given you some pushback?
I've been one thing I will say is I've been very, very lucky. I've been very lucky in the mentors that I've ended up working with, the places I've ended up working, the people that I've met. I've been extremely lucky. My first boss, who I worked for 6 years, was very spiritual, but like undercover spiritual. He actually brought somebody to do Reiki in for everybody, because he used to go somewhere. I can't remember the name of the place, like a wellness center over Thailand way, and it was like a week of like no phones, nothing, and you know there was a Reiki healer that worked with him who actually works here now, who was amazing, and he worked with all of us. So there was 25-30 of us in the company, worked with all of us. So I've had these experiences through my life, and I've just ended up with working with these people that integrate without even realizing that's what they're doing, and they've been very successful. I've had there's two sides to your question. There's the experience that I've had, and I've been lucky enough to be in environments where I've had the freedom to say, do you know what, we're going to do something different. We're not going to work like this anymore. Let's try something different for 3 months. And you know, over those one particular company, we shifted a lot. There were some people that, you know, we weren't able to continue with. That it just the structure of the company didn't work. We weren't making money with the operational setup and with some of the other bits. So we changed. We made a few very big changes that could have gone one of two ways. Looking at it from the old way, could have gone one of two ways, but it felt right. It felt the right way to go. And we doubled our revenue in 3 months. We doubled our revenue in 3 months by engaging properly with the team. And there was loads of little things that happened within that, proper one-on-ones, different meeting structure, different business plan. The way that we structured the KPIs were different. And, you know, there was loads of little things that went in there. But it was all simple, really easy to follow, easy to understand, simple, and it felt right. So that's when you take action, when it feels right. And because I can draw on these experiences, because I've had some of these kind of case studies, I suppose, in the back end of my career, I've been able to tangibly put that into results. But before that, it took trust. It took that brave step for somebody to say, okay, let's try this, you know, and it's the consequence of that is, you know, your brain just goes, I'm going to die. But strangely enough, especially since I've kickstarted up, you know, my business now, No Phone Work, I'm very honest about who I am, and I didn't want to hide that. It was something really important to me. I thought, if this fails because I am who I am, then it fails. I don't care.
Right.
And that was the core of how I was approaching people. So I wrote emails and to outreach to people who already know me. I'm very kind of like, this is what you get, kind of heart on sleeve. So they all know me. But people who didn't know me at all or didn't know of me through anybody else, I was very blunt. My email or my contact to them would start conscious, business, and spirituality.
Beautiful.
And I'd go straight into these are the two things I'm really passionate about. I'm passionate about business. I love seeing people do what they love to do, and I love seeing them thrive and shine. I'm getting goosebumps. I love seeing them shine, and I love seeing them achieve what they want to achieve, and I love seeing them do their best work. And that's what you get when you go horizontal and vertical in a business. You look at the whole structure, you know. And for me, the same. I don't know if you feel this, Melissa, or if you can resonate with this, but there's the same feeling of when you're doing Reiki on a person. It's the same as a business. You can feel where the business needs healing. You can feel where there's something that isn't quite right, where there's a block, where it's dense. I'm getting goosebumps again. You can feel that in a business, and it takes somebody to open their mind to say, okay, this doesn't feel right. And do you know what's funny? Everybody knows. When you're a leader, you know. You just know. We all have that innate sense of knowing. You know that particular department isn't right. You know that person isn't happy. You know, these two people working together, it's just not conducive. It's not producing the right results. These two people would be better. But nobody takes action on those little voices. You know, that little bit of, they drop it and they sit back because people don't like change. You know, it's the uncertainty. And when I've been approaching people and talking about all of this kind of stuff, I've had a much better response than most other marketing campaigns that I've seen over 11 years.
Yeah.
So to just in terms of initial engagement in that kind of campaign, just by saying I'm mixing spirituality and business. And sometimes it's like, wow, brilliant, good for you. And sometimes it's a deeper conversation.
Yeah.
I think it's just people are scared to say that word spirituality in the workplace, aren't they? But I bet you once you mention it one-on-one, people will come to you more and say, oh, do you know what you said? But they're scared to say that in front of their colleagues around the water cooler.
Yeah.
You know, and I think this is the thing, that the shift that we need to do is that that one person who is like, I am practicing this new kind of way. It's a little bit more open. It's a little bit more fluid. Oh, and look at my sales figures. That's when people are going to go, oh, do you know what, Brad, he has done this Reiki work, or he's done this other kind of spiritual mindset stuff, and that's when things will start to change. But these people are scared to say that they do that. I know I was for a long time. For me to say that I meditate and have this routine in the morning, I was very, very scared to say that, especially to my other male friends from the sporting world. So Mel, you were going to say something?
I think what you are embodying, Michelle, which is like really inspiring, is kind of owning your own. There's this sense of authenticity and ownership and agency. And I think at the end of the day, that's what people want to connect with. Like, even if I don't maybe agree with you on certain things, if you're coming at me fully like, this is all of me, this is who I am, this is how I work, then there's this level of almost respect that I can say, well, this girl's giving me all of it. And I might not understand or speak the same language, but I want to aspire to be somebody who can walk into the room and say, here, this is who I am, right? And I think when we're doing any kind of work, the people who leave a mark on us, if we would think about it, are the people who are like, yeah, I'm the weirdo who hugged that tree and talks to her dog and talks to her plant, and that's just me. And then I'm skilled in all these ways, and I also talk to my plants. And like owning that kind of thing is what lands on people, whether or not they know it in the moment, or whether or not you walk away thinking, like with any doubt. I think there's enough, like, you know, if we pull back, there's enough evidence or like information to know that we do leave marks, and how we leave marks hopefully would be because we were authentic to ourselves and our own knowing and way of being, right? And I think so when you speak and you have goosebumps, it's like, you're not lying. I'm like, you're not lying. And that's what we can ask for people is like, don't lie about what brings you joy or what kind of work you want to do. And you can Reiki energy work otherwise, even if that's not your language or experience. We have an innate sense of when somebody is not fully connected to us or themselves, right? We all have this spidey sense of what's going on. So it is refreshing to, yeah, you know what? I'm a counselor and I do and I do energy work. Yeah, I'm a psychotherapist and I do plant medicine. Yeah, I'm this and I do that. Yeah, I'm this, and there's nothing wrong with the ands, but this world makes us think just be one thing and stay in that box because that's all I can understand right now, right? So it's really refreshing and inspiring, I think, to have that full out, this is what you get with me, and then have the conversation if it lands differently for people.
Thank you. Yeah, I think there's like, so there's two sides to the coin. So you know, you can have, nobody needs to know anything about the spiritual side of me for me to be able to do my job. Right. Nobody would ever need to know that. I can do the job just as effectively without telling people that's what I do. That's just how I work. That's how I get there. That's my journey. That's my inspiration. That's my process. That's my approach. You know, that's how I get there, and that's how I do what I do and how I've done what I've done, and it feels right to me, so I'll continue on that. But if you you know, because language is really important, so if you take away the language and you just take the essence, I think that's what you need. And you know, everyone works in different ways and it's complementing that. So absolutely, and doing lots of different things also gives you the principles and methodologies to apply to other parts of your life. For example, I have an ex-boyfriend who was a poker player. He was a brilliant poker player, but because of that mindset and that he had very mathematical way of approaching things, he was very good at being able to pick something up and just know how it worked, or just something that he'd never done before. And it was the way of thinking that particular way of thinking that enabled him to unlock other areas of talent in other industries and other areas. That is really important as well. You need a breadth to be able to say, oh my God, I wonder if that would work here. That's where inspiration comes from, when you try different things.
That's cool.
I think it just, that's what we require that nowadays, I suppose, moving forward, is to come into this new world that we're in with an open mind, you know, and being able to go, like, forget about these old ways. Everyone's going, I want the old normal and all that. Forget about the new normal, like just know about the now and just be open-minded enough to know. And this is why I love your company, because your company, when I see your company, I see a scale. You know, I see that you provide a balance of things, and you're there to help people find balance. You know, and whether that's a balance of how certain departments work together, or certain energies that people bring into work, you're always about finding a balance, and I really like that. And I think that if people start to just look at their life as being, I'm going to balance things, I'm going to try to find, these old ways were too heavy for me. You know, yes, they worked in days of old, but they just don't work anymore. So I'm going to find a new balance. But I did take some good things from there. You know, I did take some good things. I did learn some things about work ethic. I did learn some things about camaraderie and coming together as teams. But I do know now today about living a little bit more kind of heart-led work. There's a balance in there. So kind of what's the future for you? What's over the next few months? What are you looking at, kind of how you're going to offer things to your clients as we're just about to enter a new phase of our relationship with this worldwide pandemic?
I think people are always going to have problems that are at the core that they need support with. So for me, it's speaking to as many people as I can. And, you know, Melissa, just what you were saying is, you know, even if you can have one conversation and inspire somebody, that's how you change lives. You don't need to be standing in front of a stadium of 2,000 people. Sometimes one conversation with one person on the right day that they need to hear something, you know, it changes that person's perspective and they can go and do something else. So at the moment, I'm working with clients and working just on talking to people, finding out what people's vibes are, finding out what people's problems are, because there's a tool for it. Every challenge that we come across, there's some way to overcome that. And over the next 6 months, what I want to do is just try and unearth that and make it tangible for people in a simple, easy way, and then integrate that into businesses and help businesses get from overly complicated tension, harshness, just misery, and bring that into something that is meaningful work and meaning for them.
Beautiful. Mel, do you have anything last to say?
No, thank you. This has been great.
All good.
Time flew by, actually.
Michelle, yeah, it did fly by. I think that we could have kept talking. We'll make sure that we get you on again in a few months just to kind of see how things have been going. But do you want to just ping me your contact details and your website stuff, and I'll put them into this Facebook feed. I have tagged you in it. So if anybody out there at the What's On in Elephant Castle Facebook page wants to get in touch with Michelle with regards to her offerings and what she does at Known Frameworks, just stay on the Facebook page and I'll post the links. So Michelle, thank you so much for joining us today. And we will have our Retribe workshop, which is, Mel, you wrote the title for it yesterday. Can you remember what the title for the workshop is?
Yeah. But what we'll do is over December, just look at like cultivating kind of peace and self-compassion internally, I think, because holiday seasons are upon us. And then also find ways that we can kind of spread that externally to create trust and safety externally for our anchoring during these times. So something along those lines.
I'm very excited.
I haven't had coffee yet. I'm so sorry.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Melissa. And thanks everybody at the What's On at Elephant Castle Facebook page. We'll see you next week or at the workshop on Thursday. Thanks, everybody.
Take care, guys.
Bye.
Bye.